All right, let's talk seriously about sports movies. I joked a little bit when we were reviewing basketball, but let's talk about sports movies. Seriously. There's a reason that they're one of the most prolific genres of film. They have everything. They're the perfect kind of framing device for all these stories about the triumph of the human spirit and, overcoming adversity, Rocky going the distance and all of that. And I'm not coming here telling you I don't like sports movies. I do. But one thing you notice is that the sports movies that are out there tend to cover a very narrow range of sports. They tend to be, I'm going to use a bad term here, so pardon me for this, but they tend to be the more manly sports. Football, basketball, baseball. There's a couple hockey ones, boxing. Every now and then you get an oddity. You get something like Cool Runnings, which, did bobsledding. That's actually one I should do on here. Actually, that's a forgotten gem, but that's for another time. And that's all well and good, but here's the thing. As a young athlete growing up, and believe it or not, I was an athlete in my youth, but not the sport most of you are probably thinking of. But being a young athlete, the problem I kind of had is there were no movies, there were no books about the sport I played, the thing I did. That's the other thing, kids today have it so much easier. Especially young men when it comes to reading material. Back when I was a kid, they kept going, read, you gotta read. And all the books that were out there for young men were the Hardy Boys or sports books. And Encyclopedia Brown. Encyclopedia Brown kicked ass, but I digress. So, again, I was an athlete, but the sport that I played was never represented. So when a movie came along that actually did represent my sport, and I felt, and I still feel, represented it fairly accurately and in an entertaining way, you better believe I gobbled it up. And you better believe that I'm over-exaggerating a little bit, but it came kind of a Bible. It became a playbook, a thing to look at and go, this is what you do and this is what you don't do. And I'm talking about 1992's The Cutting Edge. One of only 2 movies I can think of that actually deal with the sport of figure skating. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know me, I was a figure skater when I was a kid. I know it's difficult looking at me now to believe, but once upon a time, I used to be graceful. And I'm not lying about this. I was a figure skater from first grade all the way up to my freshman year in high school. So this film, when it came out, and again, this was something that wasn't, okay, I can think of 3 movies that deal with figure skating, but unlike Blades of Glory, fucking Will Ferrell shit, this was not a film that was poking fun at us. Because believe me, male figure skaters already had enough of that. This was a movie that, in my opinion, actually looked at us and looked at the story fairly even-handedly. And that's why I loved it as a kid, and that's why I still love it today. Interesting thing, one thing I love about going back and doing this series for y'all is going back and watching some of these movies that maybe I don't watch as much or haven't watched in a long time. I'm picking up on a lot of things that I didn't notice the first time. And I'll talk about some of those here in a second. So here's the story. You have 2 skaters. You have Kate, who is a figure skater. She's a pair skater. But she is an impossible person to work with or be around. She, as their skating instructor says, she is beautiful skater. He's Russian in the movie. You know, she is beautiful skater. Everyone is saying this, but always is coming the big B. What a bitch. So you've got her, and she is alienated every partner she's ever had. She's cut them all. They can't keep up with her and all that. And then the second character is Douglas Dorsey, played by D.B. Sweeney. Kate is played by Moira Kelly. I should have mentioned, sorry. So D.B. Sweeney's character, Douglas Dorsey, is this great up-and-coming hockey player. Okay? But during a game at the Olympics, he gets blindsided, and he loses the peripheral vision in his eye, which for a hockey player is pretty much career-ending. He can't see the guys coming at him. So he sees his career kind of take a nosedive before it even starts. So what happens is this Russian coach, played wonderfully, I gotta look at his name, played wonderfully by Roy Dotrice. One of those actors who I know by sight, but I could never remember his name. Roy Dotrice, a wonderful character actor. He was in the Beauty and the Beast television show in the 80s, playing father. He had a number of great character roles. So anyway, he gets these two together and says, now you're going to be a couple. Now you are going to work together. So he's teaching a hockey player how to be a figure skater. And of course, the figure skater now has someone tougher than the usual male figure skater to kind of stand up to her. And of course, as they're doing this and as they're going along, romance blooms. So my theater friends can probably already pick this out, and I am ashamed of myself. I am ashamed of myself that I never picked up on this until just now, until watching it last night. And I am so embarrassed. Oh, they should take my theater degrees away. I mean, they already took my theater department away at my undergrad, so might as well take my degree too. Basically, this is Taming of the Shrew on ice. That is exactly what it is. It is Taming of the Shrew on ice. Like, down to the fact that her name is Kate. Bonnie Kate. Sweet Kate. Or Kate the Terrible. I cannot believe it took me that long to make that connection. Yeah, like, even the thing about her father, like, about the suitor, you know, Doug, being paid to be with her originally, because he's there as a job. It's not like a thing of, it's a job. So yeah, it's Taming of the Shrew on ice. And when you look at it in those terms, it kind of makes up for some of the film's shortcomings. One of the film's shortcomings, until I kind of made this connection, is that, boy howdy, Moira Kelly is an incredible bitch in this movie. Just to an insane degree. God, she is one of the great screen bitches. And I feel bad saying that, because one thing you cannot deny, one thing you cannot turn away from, is that especially in the early 90s, Hollywood had no fucking idea how to write women. No fucking idea. Especially strong, independent women. That old, the strong, independent woman. They had no idea how to write them except make them a bitch. That was literally all they could do, and it shows in this. This is 90s writing, just oozing from every orifice. But I found that when I looked at it as a Taming of the Shrew on ice and more of a Shakespearean story, the bigger character, the bigger bitchiness of her felt a little bit more natural to me. So it didn't bother me as much as it has in past viewings when I was getting older and whatnot. I was like, oh, okay, it's Shakespearean. That makes way more sense now. So I've started out kind of ragging on the movie, and I didn't mean to. But yeah, that problem of portraying women in the 90s, God, yeah, geez. But that being said, let's talk about what works about this movie. First of all, something that works just great about this movie, and you need it for any romantic comedy, D.B. Sweeney and Moira Kelly have excellent chemistry. Just phenomenal. They bounce off each other so well and so naturally. Especially with lines that are clearly scripted. These, it's kind of like a thing you have a problem with when you watch Kevin Smith movies, that the lines are so meticulous that it's hard to believe anybody's just coming up with this off the top of their head. And yeah, their lines are very carefully crafted. Again, Shakespearean. But the two of them just play off each other really well. And that is, I think, the key word is play. They are having fun playing these roles and being these characters. And that makes the film fun to watch. And it really is an odd couple. She really is the prim and perfect, little rich girl. He is the blue collar, factory worker, former jock kind of thing who peaked in high school. And they play those archetypes really, really well. So that is one of the key, the driving force of this movie. But here's the thing that, from my perspective as a young man and as an adult now, that really gets me, is that I still feel, I can't speak too much for it now, but I can say that for my time when I was competing, it really does paint an accurate picture of what the life of a competitive figure skater is. And I never competed seriously. I did competitions, but I was never going to go to the Olympics. I never had that, that fantasy. But I knew a lot of kids that did, and parents who did, if you get where I'm coming from. My parents were never like that. My parents were, do it if you like it, don't do it if you don't. And that was a lot of pressure off of me. All the pressure came from myself. But anyway, the movie really does show, not just in like the montages and whatnot, but it shows kind of what that life is really like, and what, the commitment and everything that goes in to doing that. Also, and this is God, this sounds so pompous, and I don't even know what to call what I'm about to say. But I feel like it really does show the challenges faced by a heterosexual male figure skater. The way people kind of talk to you, and the way you're looked down on, or the way they, they have a scene where he goes back and tells his older brother, who runs a sports bar, that he's figure skating. He says stuff like, are they gonna make you shave your legs? And I had people ask me that. Believe it or not, I had people ask me that when I was younger. I hadn't even been shaving my face, and I had people asking me if I shaved my legs. Believe it or not. The thing about the whole, the costumes, that the figure skaters always have to wear these gaudy, outfits, trying to look masculine and yet still be graceful. It's a challenge, folks. It's, yeah, I'm not, it was something that, again, it's one of those movies I saw as a kid and went, this is telling my story. I get this. I relate to this. I like that it also says the line that I proved correct to a lot of unsuspecting hockey players. You gotta remember, I'm from Alaska, so I was a figure skater in an elementary school full of hockey players. And I love that this movie has the line that figure skating is a hell of a lot harder than hockey. Because nobody believes that until the hockey players are on the ice with a figure skater and they're trying to hit him. And the figure skater actually knows how to skate and doesn't just know how to charge. I'm zipping in and out. We were playing broom hockey in my PE class, and all these hockey players were gunning for me, and they're coming at me, and I'm zip, zopping, zooping all around them. Very proud. One of the proudest moments of my life is the Coach McDonald, God rest him. What a wonderful man. He was the coach of the high school, of the Chugiak High hockey team. And this is when I was in elementary school, watched us do that because they were there to practice, and he watched, and he asked my mom, is he going to play hockey for Chugiak? I was very proud of that, knowing that I could. Anyway, this is less of a review than a confession. But it deals with that. It deals with, the sports cliche, Moira Kelly's character of being the daughter of a father who's kind of been pushing her all her life to do this one thing, and she doesn't, and part of her anger is coming to the fact she doesn't know who she is without it. The father, by the way, played excellently by brilliant character actor Terry O'Quinn, who does not get the praise and the adoration that he really deserves. He's a great character actor and has been for years, still is. Most people probably know him best from Lost as Locke. But God, he's good. And I like that they didn't make him just this evil person. He was someone who didn't quite realize what he had been doing. He got lost in it just like she did. Here's another really great thing about this movie in terms of the storytelling. With any story like this where you have the bitchy woman and, the guy that's going to tame her, you ever notice it doesn't go the other way? They never have a story about a bitchy guy and the woman that has to, show him life is beautiful. I mean, come on. I mean, tell me that's not a great love story. Anyway, any film where you have that setup, you know what's going to happen. You know they're going to end up falling in love. What I like about this movie is that I'd say for about 90% of it, they have a few cliche moments in there. The relationship is built up slowly and naturally. It doesn't feel like something that you're like, oh, all of a sudden, boom, they're in love. It's like, no, you actually see how the relationship develops from start to finish. That they go from being, adversarial and confrontation with one another, that bickering becomes more of a shorthand and more of an affectionate kind of back and forth. You see them forming a friendship and a partnership. And then through all that, they start to fall in love and again, they don't even really realize it until the end. So that's something you don't see in a lot of movies. You don't see, kind of like Harry Met Sally. You see the friendship and the relationship established before they add this complication of, oh shit, we're in love. So I really like that. You don't see that. Pardon me. One other thing, something else I noticed watching this now, again, that I did not notice at the time. Man, the editing in this is really fantastic. Because, of course, they have, ringers, stunt skaters to come in and do the actual long shots of them doing the routines because, that's not something you can train actors to do, in however much prep time you have for a movie. But the editing is so good, of being careful of the far shots, the long shots, and the close-ups, and intersplicing them, that for a little while you almost believe. There are a couple times when they do the long shot, and the person doing the stunt skating for D.B. Sweeney, I think it's Scott Hamilton, actually, I think. I could be wrong about that. But his head is very clearly a different shape than D.B. Sweeney's. D.B. Sweeney has more of a rounded head, and the stunt skater has much more of a, I don't want to say a Frankenstein thing going on, but they have very different shaped heads. And there are some times when that happens, you're like, that is clearly not him. But a lot of times, when they keep there are several montage scenes where the lighting is low, the lighting is coming from the windows, so you see them more in silhouette, and they're intercutting real quick, and you're fooled. It really does look like they're doing the skating. So that's really good, because a lot of films are not that good with hiding their stunt doubles or their skating doubles. So yeah, that's something, again, something I didn't really realize. Okay, but I gotta talk about this. Because even as a kid, this bugged the shit out of me. So, as I always say, is this movie perfect? No, it's not. And one of the things that really makes it unperfect, or not perfect, or whatever, is the ending. So they finally get to the Olympics, and to compete against the Russian team, because of course it's a Russian team. This is still early 90s. The Soviet thing is still, we still got to beat those Russians. It wasn't enough that Rocky beat Drago. We've got to fucking, So to beat the Russians, they have to come up with a new move. They have to come up with a new move that no one has ever seen and is going to steal the deal. I'm glad this is a red light right now because I have to demonstrate this. So this new move is, and we're going to use Dr. Q here, is that DB Sweeney takes Moira Kelly by the blades of her skates, spins her around at this angle, like her head, just like barely hitting the ice, supposedly throws her straight up, she spins, and then he catches her this way. Folks, you don't have to be a figure skater to know this, but as a figure skater, I have to tell you, that is 100% unmitigated, unrelenting, can't get it off your mind or your shoe, dog shit. You cannot do that. The laws of physics and gravity, you can't fucking do that. You can't take a person who you are spinning at this angle and throw them at a perfect vertical angle for them to do a spin and have them come down safely. First of all, I don't care how fucking strong you are. Get me the Rock. All right, get the Rock to try this shit. You can't take a person going at this angle and throw them so they're going this way. The human body doesn't do that. The most you're going to do is they're going to go diagonally, like a javelin. You can't make them go straight up and down. It's fucking... So not only the strength it would take to toss them that way, but the fucking... The physics... Dead. Fucking dead. She's dead. Okay? Fucking dead. Spinning her around with her head that far off the ice. Fucking dead. Your skull is cracked. Fucking dead. And the scenes where they are showing them practicing this are brutal. I can't watch it. Because that stunt actor is smacking her head and body on the ice so much. It's a complete opposite of, like, earlier in the film, there's a comic scene, if it's never happened to you, where he's first learning to figure skate, and with figure skates, they have the thing on the front called a toe pick, which is there for you to, dig into the ice and push off. And one of the first things that you have a hard time learning to do when you're skating is learning to deal with those toe picks. You go too far on your toe, boom, 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 slam. And there's this whole scene where he's doing it, and she's like, toe pick, toe pick, toe pick. And, yeah, funny if it's never fucking happened to you, bitch, let me tell you. Because I've had that happen, and it ain't funny. But no, it's a complete opposite of that, because that scene, head cracked, dead. Fucking dead. Like, I can accept through movie magic and, willing suspension of disbelief of the romantic comedy genre that a hockey player learns to be an Olympic caliber figure skater in less than a year. Okay, I will concede that to you for the sake of getting the movie going and getting the premise where it needs to be. I will not accept that ending. Fuck that. It doesn't fucking work. And I'm sorry, this is something I have been ranting about for years. Ever since I first saw it, I'm like, you can't do that. It doesn't work. Oh, fuck. Be that as it may, that's a huge fucking problem. Huge fucking problem with this movie. Especially when the rest of it, again, is so, I think, so accurate. Be that as it may. Be that as it may. Taking a breath, calming down, stepping away from it, never happened. Be that as it may. I still really love this movie, and even watching it now, and I'm finding these new things, like the Taming of the Shrew connection, it is a movie that I find I'm enjoying even more as I grow up and can appreciate some of the more subtle things about it. I will go back real quick to something I did think about watching this, and Roy Dotrice's wonderful portrayal of the coach. And it kind of dawned on me, and this is something I don't know if I can correct at this age. I don't know if I ever really told my skating coaches, Cindy Solberg and Julie, I can't remember Julie's last name, I'm sad to say. I don't think I ever really thanked them for everything they did for me. And, you know, what they kind of helped me become. My figure skating career prepared me for my theater career. It really did. Like, in ways I wasn't quite aware of. And I really wish I could thank them for that. So I don't know how I'd go about doing that, but on the off chance they may be watching this, thank you both. Thank you for everything. You have no idea how it affected me in the most positive and wonderful of ways. So yeah, I wanted to say that. Last thing I'm going to leave you with is this is a great movie to kind of go into this game I like to play. And I like to introduce it to my students, and I'm introducing it to you all now because I know everyone's stuck at home. I mentioned at the beginning, you know, that this is Taming of the Shrew on Ice. And this brings to a fun game I like to play, and that is the belief that any film can be made better by the adding of one of three subtitles: the musical, in space, or on ice. Try it. Let's try one together. Let's see. Let's go with an easy one. Let's go with The Avengers. The Avengers, the musical. The Avengers on ice. Now, ones like The Avengers don't necessarily work with in space. You got to go with ones that aren't as obvious. Let's try one here. Jaws in space. Now, if you're really good, and I warn you, this is only for masters. This is only for folks who really have practiced at this. Don't just try this, willy-nilly. But try adding all three. For instance, Baywatch in space, the musical on ice. Makes you want to give it your money, doesn't it? I know it does me. Well, all right. Have fun playing that while you're stuck at home, folks. All right. Thank you for joining me for this version of Forgotten Gems. We'll be back with another one soon enough. And until next time, drive safe, and I'll see you at the movies.